The sky was a perfect shade of blue, the sun glistening on the gentle waves of sandy shore beach. Families were scattered across the sand, children building sandcastles and couples lounging under colorful umbrellas. It was a picture-perfect day. Among the crowd was a group of friends: Mark, Lisa, Josh, and Emily. They had known each other since high school and had planned this beach trip to celebrate their recent college graduation. Laughter echoed as they splashed each other in the shallow waters, unaware of the dark presence lurking beneath the surface. As the day turned to evening, the beach began to empty. Most families packed up and headed home, leaving only a few stragglers. The group of friends decided to stay a little longer, enjoying the cool breeze and the soothing sound of the waves. "Let's build a bonfire," suggested Mark, his eyes sparkling with excitement. "We can roast marshmallows and tell ghost stories." Everyone agreed, and soon they had a small fire crackling. The sun dipped below the horizon, painting the sky in shades of orange and pink. Darkness began to creep in, and the once inviting waves now seemed to whisper secrets. As the friends sat around the fire, sharing stories and laughter, Emily noticed something strange. The waves seemed to be moving differently, almost as if they were alive. She shook off the feeling, convincing herself it was just her imagination. "Hey, did you guys hear about the legend of this beach?" Josh asked, his voice taking on a spooky tone. "They say it's haunted." "Haunted," Lisa scoffed. Come on, Josh. That's just a story to scare tourists." "No, really," Josh insisted. "They say a ship sank here 100 years ago. Everyone on board drowned, and their spirits still haunt the waters." "A nice try," Mark said, rolling his eyes. "You're not scaring us." Suddenly, a cold gust of wind blew through the group, causing the fire to flicker. Emily shivered and pulled her jacket tighter around her. The atmosphere had changed. The once cheerful beach now seemed ominous. The night wore on, and the friends continued to chat, the earlier unease slowly fading. It wasn't until Lisa decided to take a walk along the shore that things took a darker turn. "Don't go too far," Mark called after her. "It's getting late." Lisa waved him off and strolled along the water's edge, the cool sand squishing between her toes. She enjoyed the peacefulness, the gentle lapping of the waves against the shore. But as she walked further, she noticed something odd. There, half buried in the sand, was an old rusted ship's bell. It looked ancient, covered in seaweed and barnacles. Lisa bent down to get a closer look, curiosity getting the better of her. She reached out to touch it, and as her fingers brushed the metal, a chilling sensation shot through her body. Suddenly, the waves crashed louder, and a low, mournful wail echoed from the ocean. Lisa jumped back, her heart pounding. She stumbled, falling into the wet sand, her eyes wide with fear. The wail continued, a haunting sound that sent shivers down her spine. Scrambling to her feet, Lisa ran back to the bonfire, her breath coming in short, panicked gasps. "Guys, you won't believe what I just saw." The friends gathered around Lisa, their faces filled with concern. What happened?" Mark asked, his voice steady but laced with worry. "I found this old ship's bell," Lisa explained, her voice trembling. "And when I touched it, I heard this awful wail coming from the ocean." Josh frowned. "Are you sure it wasn't just the wind?" "I'm sure," Lisa insisted. "It sounded supernatural." The group exchanged uneasy glances. The earlier story about the haunted beach now seemed less like a joke and more like a warning. "Maybe we should leave," Emily suggested, her voice small. "It's getting late, and it's starting to feel creepy." Mark nodded. "Yeah, let's pack up. We can come back in the morning." As they began to gather their things, the wind picked up, howling through the trees and whipping sand into their faces. The fire sputtered and died, leaving them in near darkness. They hurriedly packed their belongings, their movements frantic. But as they were about to leave, Mark noticed something in the water. A dark shape, just beneath the surface, moving towards them. A guy's look. They turned to see the shadowy figure, its outline barely visible in the dim light. It moved with an unnatural grace, gliding through the water towards the shore. Panic set in, and they began to run, their feet slipping on the wet sand. Back at their rented beach house, the friends tried to shake off the fear. They locked the doors and windows, lighting candles to ward off the darkness. But the unease lingered, a constant presence that refused to leave. Maybe it was just a trick of the light, Josh suggested, trying to sound reassuring. Or a fish. And no fish moves like that, Emily said, her voice barely above a whisper. It was something else. Lisa sat on the couch, hugging her knees to her chest. What if it's the spirits? What if they're real? Come on, Lisa, Mark said, though his voice lacked conviction. Ghosts aren't real. A sudden knock on the window made them all jump. They turned to see a shadowy figure standing outside, its eyes glowing an eerie blue. The figure pressed its face against the glass, its features twisted in a grotesque smile. Panic erupted. They scrambled to find something to defend themselves with, but the figure vanished as quickly as it had appeared. The friends huddled together, fear palpable in the air. We need to leave, Mark said, his voice urgent. We need to get out of here now. But as they opened the door, they found themselves face to face with the same shadowy figure. It blocked their path, its eyes glowing brighter. The air grew colder, their breaths visible in the chill. Trapped and terrified, the friends retreated back into the house. The figure remained outside, watching them with those piercing blue eyes. The night seemed endless, every second stretching into an eternity of fear. We need to figure out what it wants, Emily said, her voice trembling. Maybe if we understand it, we can make it go away. How? Josh asked, his voice rising in panic. How do we do that? We need to learn more about the shipwreck, Elisa suggested. Maybe there's something we can do to appease the spirits. Using their phones, they began to search for information about the shipwreck. They found an old newspaper article about the SS Wave Rider, a ship that had sunk off Sandy Shore Beach 100 years ago. The article detailed how the crew had perished, their bodies never recovered. It says here that the ship's bell was never found, Mark read aloud. It's believed to be cursed, carrying the souls of the dead. That must be the bell I found, Elisa said, her voice shaking. What if we return it to the ocean? It's worth a try, Josh said. We don't have any other options. As dawn approached, the friends gathered the ship's bell and made their way back to the beach. The shadowy figure followed them, its presence a constant reminder of their danger. The beach was deserted, the once peaceful waves now a dark, menacing force. They stood at the water's edge, the bell heavy in their hands. What now? Emily asked, her voice barely audible over the crashing waves. We throw it back, Mark said, his grip tightening on the bell. And hope it works. With a collective effort, they heaved the bell into the ocean. It sank beneath the waves, disappearing into the depths. For a moment, nothing happened. Then the water began to churn, a violent whirlpool forming where the bell had sunk. The shadowy figure let out a piercing wail, its form dissolving into mist. The whirlpool calmed, the ocean returning to its natural state. The friends stood in stunned silence, the weight of their ordeal settling in. As the sun rose, the friends made their way back to the beach house. Exhausted but relieved, they knew they had survived something unimaginable. They packed their belongings and left Sandy Shore Beach, vowing never to return. The experience left a lasting mark on them. They shared a bond forged in fear and survival, their friendship stronger than ever. But they never spoke of that night again, the memories too haunting to relive. Years later, Mark found himself back at the beach, drawn by an inexplicable force. He stood at the water's edge, the waves lapping gently at his feet. He knew the spirits were at peace, their curse lifted. But he couldn't shake the feeling that something still lingered, a dark presence hidden beneath the waves. As he turned to leave, he heard a faint, familiar wail. He looked back, the ocean calm and inviting. But he knew better. Some mysteries were best left unsolved, some darkness best left undisturbed. And as he walked away, he vowed never to forget the dark waters of Sandy Shore Beach.